everyone. I'm going to talk to you a bit about orchids. Mine are in a terrible state. I'm not proud of them. They're really very neglected and they're quite poorly, and they've got bugs as well, so we've got the works to sort out. But I'm going to do two videos. First of all, I'm going to show you in this one general background about looking after orchids, and let's hope I can recover mine from the emergency department where they are now. So first of all, orchids like you get as a gift from the supermarket, they're such pretty things and they'll keep on flowering, but there are one or two things you need to know about them. This one, to start with, is dead. I had it on the windowsill and it was just too cold because it was behind the curtains, and I'm afraid to say it has died. There's absolutely no life left in the roots at all. So that is not going to be recoverable, unfortunately. But just to show you, they grow in this really loose bark, because normally if they're in the wild, they grow up in the trees. So they grow up like in the fork of a branch, and they just sort of hover on there, and they get rainfall on, but you can imagine that drains away. So what we use is this very loose bark as a sort of to try and replicate what it would be like growing up on the tree. And the other thing is we grow them in these transparent pots, you probably noticed, and they have like a little raised area inside which holds the roots up out of the water, because what you don't want with orchids is for them to sit in water, because they'll just rot and die. So that's how they're grown, and that's how you'll bring them home from the supermarket or the garden centre. And normally you just keep them growing in those little transparent pots. I thought it would be a good idea to grow this. I had this beautiful glass vase, and I had visions of this wonderful orchid growing luxuriantly in here. Well, I can tell you it hasn't worked at all. It's really, really poorly. And I'm going to take it out of here because it's not a success at all. But I'm going to show you, and what I'm doing is I'm going to put some still photographs on the Facebook page so you can see close up what they look like. But basically, any orchid that is as floppy as this is not in a good way. There are two reasons why the leaves can go floppy, and they're absolute opposites. One is they're too dry, and the other is they're too wet. So in order to know what's wrong with your orchid, you really need to look at the plant pot and the soil and see how it is. If it is light as dust like this one, and it's just, there's no weight in the pot at all, that is just so dry that it's half gone really. But you might find when you lift yours up it's sopping wet. Well, don't give it any more water. It shows the stress in exactly the same way, and that's just something to know, that you might look at the leaves and think, oh, it looks thirsty because it's gone floppy, but it's not that at all. It's overwatered and it's stopping it getting oxygen into it. So just look carefully and decide whether it's too dry or too wet. This one I'm going to repot, but all its little aerial roots, they're all brown and they're really dry and they're quite flattened and shriveled. I'm ashamed of these. I don't know why I'm showing them to you. I mean, you know, it's not a good advert, is it? Anyway, I'll pop that one out of the way because I want to show you next how normally, and through the winter I must say, I did this, you know, and I once a week I'd get them all out and I just give them a drink. Now, to this water here, I'm adding, I have special orchid food, and it tells you the dose in there, so you just pour a few drops into there. I've already put some in, but I'll put a few more in just to finish off, but that's a liquid feed. If you haven't got any orchid feed, don't worry, you might have some general purpose garden flower food. This is fostrogen. You know, quite a lot of people might have some fostrogen, which is like a granular stuff, and and you can just dilute that. I had some of that as well. They're getting double treat today, poor things. The other thing is this water is tepid. It's not hot, but it's not really tap cold. Orchids are a tropical plant, so they like to be warm. So if you're going to water the orchids, don't just put really cold tap water on. The other thing I'm going to show you, so I'm taking this one out now. This is dry. All of mine are dry. None of mine are overwatered. This is dry. What I quite often do, if I'm in a hurry and I'll run them under the tap. I take them out of the plant pot and literally I'll turn the tap on and run them under the tap. That is what an orchid looks like when you water it. So what I'm saying really is you can take your watering can and it's sitting in its pot and you can give it a little dribble. That's not really what you need to do. Then you need to get the whole lot wet but let it drain off again. So actually what I normally do, because I want to feed them, running them under the tap is good and sort of quick, but when I want to feed them, I literally just put them in a bowl of water and I'll bail, it's not quite full enough, I'll literally bail water over them like that, so that I'm getting the aerial roots wet as well, because they're shrivelly and they need a bit of a drink. Okay, and then you just lift it up, let it drain out, and that's it. It's not a long-winded process, it's quick and it's done. And you can see in a healthy one, in that translucent pot, all these roots are growing around the edge, so the barky soil is just kind of holding them and it gives them something to get the moisture onto, but really they're just living from the atmosphere. So now I'm going to move this bowl out of the way, pop that back in there a minute, because I want to talk to you now. Let's suppose you've gone through the orchids and they're all well watered now. But what I want to talk to you is, how do you keep an orchid flowering? Because you may have an orchid look like this poor specimen here. Oh, it's so terrible. This is one that probably I brought to my intensive care department. People may know that I go to their houses and I'll say, that orchid doesn't look very happy, would you like me to take it to intensive care? No one is going to give me one again after this. But this is one where the flower stem had died right back, so all I've got is a little brown stalk there. But after a long time, it's got a new flower stalk on it here. That's growing right from the plant. However, if you're smart with your orchids, you can keep them going. So here we are. This is one that has been able to generate a new stalk. But look at this one here. What I can do with that, because this is still living, I can cut it off with a pair of sharp secateurs or a pair of strong scissors, and just above the leaf joint on it, I'm going to cut that off there. And what should happen is that a new flowering stem will pop out of that joint there, because this is still alive. If I can show you one, actually I'll show you on this brown one here, on this half dead specimen. What happens is that when an orchid finishes flowering, the flowers will drop off and then it progressively dies back down the stem. And if you don't intercept that dying back, it'll go right down to the base where the leaves are. And then it has to work really hard to send up a new shoot. This is clearly was terrible putting it in this glass thing, because it doesn't like it at all. So this is all died back, and I'm going to cut it off just above a leaf joint. There's a little bit of green in that, so it might regenerate. But on this other one here, don't know if you can see, but it's brown here dying back to there. That's definitely dead. But also, it starts to get this more reddish colour as it's dying back. So it starts at the top and it dies back progressively. But what you can do you can intercept that dieback, and if you see there's a leaf joint, leaf joint, leaf joint, I'm going to cut this just above a leaf joint there, and I can see that the stem inside is still green. It's pale green, but it's still alive. It's not brown and desiccated. So I think with a bit of TLC, poor thing, this will recover, and with a bit of luck it'll send out a new flowering shoot from the old one, rather than having to wait a long time for it to regenerate a new flowering shoot from by the leaves. So that's a little quick skate through the principles of watering, what it's growing in, and how you get the flowers to keep appearing on your plant. However, I've got a confession. Mine have got a major infestation of mealybug, which is not doing them any good at all. I have an extremely unorthodox approach to dealing with mealybug, which will come with a very serious health warning. So you can watch my next video and see what I do, because I haven't got any insecticide to deal with it, and frankly I don't like using them anyway. I do have an alternative method of dealing with mealybug. So watch my next video and see what you think, but it's down to you if you use it or not. Bye.